All right, everybody, welcome back. It is Daniel the RC Texan back again with the Pitts 1400 millimeter V2 by FMS. And if you caught my last video of the unboxing, well, we're back today with the build. So hang tight and let's get to it. To start off with, you are going to need a 2mm Allen, bada bing, and a small Phillips. So those are pretty much the only tools that you're going to need for this build. Right off the bat, we got started with the fuselage and we're going to install the landing gear. So, eyeballs on. We're going to start by installing these screw nuts into these 4 slots right here. So, and you can see that they are the shape of this nut, so they will just slide right in. Okay, all right, those are in. They do slide right in. We're going to go to the landing gear. All right, and it will slide down into the slot. These will go over right here. These little notches that are in here, these 2 notches go over where the nuts were you just installed. As so. All right, and then you're just going to take your screws and go from each side and screw them in. And if you built a FMS model before, I know you're probably thinking, oh, well, Daniel, you just dropped one of the nuts. Well, FMS gives you 1 nut and 1 extra screw for every screw and nut that goes along with their kit. So, but it's just right here. I know where it's at. Oh, and one thing I do want to point out, when you are tightening up the screws, especially on a foam model, you don't want to just bear down on it. You want to tighten it to the point where it feels, you know, good and snug. You don't want to keep going past that. You're just going to start crushing the foam. And that's where you're going to get, like, if you're installing control horns on something on like your elevator or rudder or ailerons, and you start to crush that down, that's where you're going to get all the wrinkles and stuff on your foam, and also that's going to weaken that point on the control surface. So we want to stay away from over tightening. We're not screwing into balsa. For those who also fly balsa airplanes, as myself, you know, with balsa and ply type planes, that we can screw down a lot harder than we can on these foam. This nifty piece of foam that came with the kit is my airplane stand for the duration of this build. All right, yes, and the weather is supposed to be great this weekend, Memorial Day weekend, so we are looking forward to getting out and getting some flight time in. But once you get your landing gear and these 4 bolts put in, these screws put in, then you've got this plastic piece. Now this just goes over the top. I can lean it just a little bit and show you. This goes over the top right here of the landing gear wire. So that's just gonna go over the top, and you'll just screw 4 screws, will put that in. And again, don't over tighten. Now with it being the landing gear, these are wood screws instead of machine screws. So they have a more aggressive thread on them, but you still don't want to overly tighten it. We are screwing into plastic and foam, so let's not put the hurt on the screws when we tighten them. And that's another good thing about the FMS lineup. You know, you get a plane, you get it delivered that day. You know, if it's early enough, you could possibly be flying that same day. Generally, it takes about 20 to 30 minutes to build. Well, in my experience, the 20 to 30 minutes for any FMS plane that I've built, they go together rather quickly. All right, landing gear's on, and we can flip this bad boy over. Take my makeshift airplane stand, set that to the side. so the next step is we're going to go ahead and install the lower wings. Okay, so now you're going to get both wing halves, one of your carbon fiber tubes, and we're just going to go through right here. Alright, and then you'll notice right beside it, that's the hole that you're going to be sliding your aileron servo wire into. So for each side. So as I had shown before, the wire is right here. So you're just going to want to pull that out, and you can see there's your connector right there. That's going to be for that side. And for this side as well. Alright. And let's see, get on this side. And for this, I'm going to take the canopy off, so that way I can pull the wire through the fuselage as I'm attaching the wing. Alright, there's the wire. And now you just want to line the wing up, and it's going to go over these two slots right here and here. That's where you're going to screw into. So push that firmly on. Make sure your servo lead wire is pulled all the way through, so that it's not bound up against anything on the outside. All right, so we got that one, and let's move some of this stuff over just a little bit. There we go, that'll be fine. Move the rudder over. Set the rudder there, and we'll just turn it a little bit, and then here we go, and just repeat the process. On. All right, let's get that other servo wire through. All right, and pull the wire and push the wing at the same time. And when you're putting on your wings, try not to put flat against these wing tips or anything that, like on the elevator or rudder. That's where you're going to get your crinkles and little just, things that make it not aesthetically pleasing when you crunch them up. So, okay. So once you got wings are on, okay, now we're going to flip this buddy back over. So let me grab my airplane stand again. All right, let's flip it over. There we go. Well, that'll have to work. All right, you're just going to take 4 screws and go down through the 2 holes per wing. Okay, so the 4 holes I mentioned, it's going to be these 4 right here. So they'll each take one of these screws. So you're going to need, again, your 2mm Allen. And what I was talking about earlier with see right now it's starting to feel snug. This piece right here is plastic, all right? It has it on both upper and lower where you put your bolts in, okay? Now if you start tightening this down too much, this whole plastic piece is gonna push into this wing. So that's why I'm saying you don't need to over tighten. You just get it where it's nice and snug, like right there. You'll know once you hit that tension mark on there, just by feeling it, that you've tightened it down, where it needs to be. That was a noisy screw. Now sometimes they don't always line up accordingly, so you will have to apply. I'll always take my hand and kind of push it up against my palm if I want to move it in a little bit. But sometimes the stars align and they just line up. And I'll notice this, so these top ones, the front ones, are gonna sink down a little bit further than these back ones. So when you get down there, don't think you've gone too far. Alright, so we've got the lower wings mounted. We've got the plane flipped back over, obviously. So now it is time to install the elevator. So this is quite easy. You can see the two holes right here. And it's just going to sit on, these holes are going to fit inside right here. So sits flat. Again, you're going to need 2 of these 10mm screws. Oops, knocked that off. All right, there we go. Don't over tighten. All right, elevator's on. Now on top of that, we're gonna go with the rudder. And if right here, you'll see the rudder has this little plastic piece. That's gonna sit and it's gonna sit and hook inside of here. And along with this piece, that's going to slide into, where you can see this, that whole slot right there is where the front of this rudder is going to fit into. And you'll see that there's a hole right here. That's going to be the hole that's going to hold down the front of the rudder. Oh, and another mention, so on the back, you are going to see that there is on the tail wheel assembly, this spot sticks out. That's going to fit inside the rudder. So when you line this up, make sure this goes into the rudder or you won't have any steering on the ground. So make sure you line that up properly. So just sit that on there. Get down eye level with it so I can see that I'm locked in. Okay, so it fits in there. All right. There we go, just like that. Now I'm gonna flip this up so I can see. Okay, so I need to back out just a little bit, not a lot. I don't have to back out all the way, so I can line up this rudder and tail wheel assembly. All right, there we go. I'm gonna go ahead and install, there's a screw that goes in right here. That's gonna hold this in place. It's gonna tighten it and just make sure it stays in place. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that while I have the plane's tail up in the air. This is gonna be the second time I use the Phillips, and this will be the last. Yep, there we go. All right. Now the tail wheel and rudder are matched there. Okay, now I am going to have to flip it back over to put on these little supports they have for the elevator. All right, and they just pop in place. They're just little plastic. They got like a little circular nipple in there. Just pops right in. Okay, so as you can see, I've got the little plastic elevator braces snapped on. So that's what it's going to look like right there. Okay, and I'm going to put the screw up front on here to hold the front of the front of the rudder down. So there we go. We can install the struts on the sides of the wings. So, and these just go and slide in. You can see how they're kind of T-shaped there. So they just, like a groove and tongue kind of thing where they just lock in. And remember, the top wing is going to be forward of the bottom wing when you're putting these on. Go. And for the other side, just take these two and right down here in the little slots. There we go. Okay, now that we have those in, we're going to install the top wing. So for this, you are going to need these two plastic joiner pieces. That's going to be on the tops of the wing. So we're going to go ahead and grab our other two wing halves and our carbon fiber tube to go in there. Okay, so we got one side, and I'm going to go ahead and install the rod. And the other side. Let's go ahead and fit these together. Okay, and those two plastic pieces that I mentioned, they're going to go right here in these little slots. So that will be holding the wings together once we start to attach them onto the wing or to the fuselage. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and screw the top wings to the fuselage, to the companion struts. And this will take 4 of the 10 millimeter screws. Move this over. Okay, now I'm just connecting these. It. All right, both wings are installed. Everything is connected. So as of now, the last step really is to put on the spinner and the propeller. Now I haven't hooked up any of the linkages yet for the elevator, for the rudder, or for the control rod that goes between both the ailerons. I will do that after the build when I do my hook up the radio and put a battery on it, and so I can center my servos and know where they're going to be at. But let's go ahead and get the prop on. All right, so the back of the spinner, it does have a little hex groove in there, and the prop adapter, it's got a hex at the end as well. So these are going to slide in there, slide together. That on. Make sure your propeller's facing the right direction. Okay, and we'll go back and fully tighten this later. All right. Make sure you have a big table. It's a good sized plane. All right, there we go. And let's put the canopy back on. Oh, it does come with the EC5 connector. So if you're curious about that, it does come with the EC5 connector. All right, and there you have it, everybody. Here it is. This is the finished, again, besides the control linkages set up. The build was pretty smooth. I mean, it had its little twerks just like any other model does. But as far as the build goes, I'd say it's very, very simplistic build. So you should be up in the air in no time. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the maiden. Thank you.